Okay, continuing on. Um, Sometimes you just have to um, find a different way around the problem. So after battling with the vector editing here in OpenToonz for quite a while, I decided to come up with an innovative solution, and the innovative solution was to go into Inkscape, and I'll just show you very quickly what I did. In Inkscape, I simply went like this, like this, like this, and like that. Well, I'm sorry, no, not like that. Like, let's see. I think what I did was I grabbed this whole thing, and well, when I did it the first time, it worked out a little better. Let's go ahead and try running this again. Yeah, the snapping. Yeah, the snapping in Inkscape is kind of. I think it was because I went in the wrong direction, but the bottom line is in Inkscape, especially if you turn on the snapping here, you can see that snapping in Inkscape is very strong, and the smoothing is good too. So see how those all snap together. So anyway, the upshot is that I created this simple shape in Inkscape, which literally took um, you know 30 seconds. And then I saved it as an SVG. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close that now. And I went in here, I went into my OpenToonz portable stuff folder, and I actually created a folder called SVG just for, vector assets that I don't want to have to create in OpenToonz. And I took the brow SVG and simply dragged it here into OpenToonz. Okay, so now I have two instances of it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to over here, and I'm going to get rid of these eyebrows that were giving me grief, and just get rid of them. Okay, just because these other eyebrows worked a lot better. So let me show you how I sort of whipped it into shape once I had it in here. So now I'm gonna do a couple things here that would that you may find useful and interesting. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to connect the these eyebrows to the head. Okay, now I could grab all these levels and I could create a sub-X sheet, but I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to make sure that the translation of certain assets propagates to other assets, and I'll show you what I mean by that. If I go into the schematic editor, which is really, if you don't know how to use the schematic view, I really want to encourage you to find your way around it and learn it, because it's super useful. Okay, so this is column 4, and column 4, which is the brow. It's kind of interesting that OpenToonz gave it the correct name, brow, when the file was saved brow.svg. So actually, in a way, by creating assets in Inkscape, it's actually making the OpenToonz workflow easier and simpler and clearer. So that's a good thing. But his head is column 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect column 4 to column 2. Okay, so all that did was it made it so that if I were to grab the animate tool, and let's go ahead and just do a couple commonsensical things about that right now. The first thing we would want to do with this head is we would want to put the center here, so that if the head's going to rotate, it's going to essentially rotate on the spot where the neck would be. Okay, now you'll see that when I rotate the head, you see that the eyebrow goes along with it. So the eyes didn't. So the eyes are column 3. So we want to make sure column 3 is also parented to the head. Okay. And now that worked properly. We're not going to worry about the mouth right now because the mouth's going to have to actually probably wind up being redone anyway. Now what I really want to do is I want to treat the two eyebrows as a pair. So I'm going to go ahead and connect these guys, and let's see what kind of craziness that's going to cause. Okay. What I think just happened, I don't know why all these items are so large in the view, but I think what's going on here, if I hit the A key, is that we want to, yeah, this is interesting. I've never actually seen this happen before. Let's try to, okay, that doesn't seem to want to work. So let me just go ahead and we'll parent the other brow to the head instead. Okay. And okay, it's kind of weird because I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete that and start over. Sometimes you just need to redo your work. So because I'm seeing some behavior that doesn't really make sense. So anyway, over here what I'm going to do is redrag the brow in right here, and that's going to be a load operation, and it should be, yeah, there it is. Okay, and that's going to be column 6 right there. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale the brow down towards its center, and then let's just kind of sort of get it in its basic position where it wants to be. I'm going to scale it. I'm actually going to do I think if I guess you can't really do it by dragging, but what you can do is you can go horizontal. I think if I just put a negative, oops, if I just put a minus in front of this 100%, yeah, it that reverses it, and I guess golly, I hate the way the windows work in OpenToonz. Okay, let's go. I'm a little dyslexic, so I'm trying to absorb what's happening here. Okay, it actually took it and went like this, which doesn't really make sense. Let's go here, add a minus, and see what it does. It's doing the same thing. Oh, I see what's, well wait, it's not locked. Okay. Okay. Let's maintain none here for a moment. If you notice what's going on here is every time I change one of these, there we go. Okay, it's because I had maintain mass on. That was causing the problem. You know, it's one of those things that, you know, I probably won't make that mistake next time, you know. But you sort of have to make the mistake once to understand how things work. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and sort of globally scale that down a little bit, and that works pretty well. Now the problem I'm going to have, yeah, it's going to sort of have its position offset a bit by parenting it to the head, but now they are married together properly. And one thing that's kind of interesting about this is that I could now take the brow, and by turning maintain mass back on, what you'll see is if I hit control and scale, I can do things like this, the eyebrows. I can animate them that way. Okay, and I think that's kind of an interesting thing to think about, because if you look at his face, for example, if you wanted to do some animation, this is sort of getting away from what this particular show might have, because the characters are positioned in a fairly static manner. In other words, they're not doing a lot of squashing and stretching. I'm just making the point that if you did want to do some squash and stretch type animation, instead of using the plastic tool and all that goes with that, which can be very difficult to get the results you want, a lot of times what you really can get great results by just using the scale tool, but make sure you turn on maintain mass. If maintain mass is turned off, then you'll just size it up and down. But if you put maintain mass on, again, it's just up and down unless you hit the control key. But when you hit the control key, all of a sudden you get this effect, and it looks great. You know, for a lot of animation problems, it gives you the result you're after. And then you can also use the shear tool, as you can see, to fine-tune it, you know. So I've just been finding, as I've been playing around with this, that just using the animate tool gives you a lot of really nice organic animation capability. So I'm drinking my coffee, by the way. Okay. Delicious. Okay. So now the question becomes, what are we going to do about this mouth? Okay, well, what's the problem with the mouth? The problem is, and by the way, let me go ahead and relabel this mouth. The problem with the mouth is we can't fill this stupid thing. I'd love to fill it. I actually took it and did a cleanup operation on it to turn it into a Toonz raster level. And if somebody out there wants to, you know, shout out and explain this to me, I'd love to hear it. I'm not clear on what actually happened, because I'm just rearranging my columns here, by the way. Okay, I want the mouth on top. I probably should be doing this in a larger X sheet view, but anyway, so I did a cleanup operation, and it looks like it reset the palette, which would suggest that it did convert it to a Toonz raster level. So let me hit Control C, Control V, and do a fill operation, see what happens. It still won't fill it. Okay, so this is kind of what we were bumping into before. So obviously the question is, well, you know, what do you do about it, right? Man, this is so stupid. I mean, frankly, it's just stupid. I select this and I hit Shift, and the global convention is Shift Select. You know, allows you to select multiple things, but not in OpenToonz. Same with Control. It just keeps selecting the other ones. So I'm going to hit the S key, draw a lasso around these guys. Okay, and then it's really weird. Now that those lines are gone, okay, this is the way we're going to look at this today, because the behavior is a little strange. With vector shapes, with stuff like this that's really simple, no problem. But the minute it starts to get any complexity at all, as we saw with the face and the hair sort of working together as a unit, it just destroys the filling capability. And that's kind of an egregious problem, because it results in stuff taking what should take minutes takes hours, because you're just fighting the software. Fight. I don't want to fight the software. Really don't. Okay, so is this, honestly, I think this is actually a hole. Well, it can't be a hole. Okay, anyway, to suffice to say, I am confused because I'm changing these colors in the palette for the level that I selected, and nothing is happening. If I go to the drawing, now all of a sudden it's positioned in a bizarre manner, and I can't find that white color anywhere. So we're in the same boat we were before. Let's just delete the stupid thing and just, you know, let's not play this game with OpenToonz anymore. So this is a lesson that we've learned in the past year. I've learned this lesson a dozen times. Stay away from Toonz vector levels unless whatever you're doing is really simple and there's a really good reason to do it. Otherwise, it's like this right here. All this erroneous, you know, you get erroneous, stupid looking, you know, why is that node there? Well, it's there because that's what OpenToonz does, and it's what OpenToonz always does. So it's not that the vector levels are bad, but they just, you don't want to do complex work using Toonz vector levels. Okay, so where does that leave us? It leaves us with a guy who has no mouth. All right, we're going to try this. We may try this a couple different ways, but this is what I think we can do. Let's try. Let me think about this for a minute. We could use a masking technique, but that seems like overkill. The upshot is we want several mouth shapes. So let's just do this the easy way. Let's use Toon Raster level. Especially because this guy's head right now is pretty big. So if we do all these drawings pretty big, then it'll always scale down nicely. So no problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my brush to 2, 2 with some smoothing. Okay, and that way I can just, okay, there's that. There's that. Okay, Control C V V. Okay, we're going to have a white color for his teeth, and we're going to have a grayish color for these lines. So I don't know if I can hit shift and get a straight line here. No, I can't. But with the smoothing on, it's pretty straight anyway. So there is that. Okay, so now by using the Toonz raster level, the problem was solved really quickly. Okay, I'm going to hit the N key to get actual size. And yeah, the only problem is the lines aren't really thick enough. So honestly, we probably should do this over again. But at least it worked. And so I'm going to just go ahead and delete that back out of there and redo it. But what we're going to do is we're going to use a, okay, I had pressure on, but I've got it going from 2 to 2, so I don't know, I'm thinking 4 actually. Let's do 4. Yeah, that looks about right. Let's just turn on the render, and it could even be 5, honestly. Let's do 5 pixels. Yep, that's what we want. Okay. Alright, so let's just erase that little bit of erroneous nastiness. And draw that. Fill that. Hit the B key. Boom. 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 Okay, so again, by using Toonz raster levels, all of a sudden we discover that everything is pretty much easy peasy. Okay, so now let's go back here, and unfortunately, this is a vector level. Unfortunately, here we need to add a little something special right here. Fill tool. Okay, that went surprisingly well. Okay, so now, in order to get this positioned properly, let's hit the animate tool. And we're just going to go into position mode, and now we discover that the mouth got left in the dust. Well, how do we solve that? Simple. We open the schematic, we take column 6 and parent it to the head as well. Okay, and the first step in that process is going to be to do a local positioning of that as well. As long as we're doing that, let's go ahead and do some commonsensical things, such as let's put the center of the mouth right there, and let's go ahead and adjust the rotation of it, the position of it, and actually his mouth in the source material is a little smaller. Okay, and then now we're going to use this new feature that our good man Jeremy Bullock came up with. Okay, let me say this. If I were to animate his head now and then go back and do the lip sync, what would happen is his head would be in a different position. Let's say it rotated. I'm pretty sure, actually let's try it this way. Let's try this way. Okay, I'm going to hit the animate tool, rotation. So I'm going to go here. I'm cheating here a little bit by just wiggling a little bit. Okay. Go Control C, Control V. Okay. So I'm putting in these keyframes that are sort of like there's a little drift there. I don't like that. So let's go Control C, Control V. So now what we have is we have these little transitions that are just like 3 or 4 frames long. Okay. Now in the real world, if that really happened, he would, I'm going to try it this way. I'm going to do what I showed you earlier. I'm going to go to the scale tool. We're maintaining mass, and I'm going to okay. Okay. So same thing here. We want to have a, okay, be careful what you wish for. You got to really, okay. So you want to move your mouse away from, you don't want your mouse to be near the center point. If your mouse is near the center point, then if you move it just a little bit, you get a ton of stretching, which is definitely not what you want. So, okay, so let's just check that out. It's not perfect because, oh, okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set a keyframe right there for the scaling. Okay, is there a little bit of a drift there? It looks like there is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Control C and Control V. So I'm just copying that keyframe to get rid of that interpolated movement. See? There, that's better. Okay, save early, save often. So now if we, in fact, for a moment there I thought OpenToonz actually exploded. Okay, so now the question is going to be about the lip sync. I'm going to try to use Jeremy's new feature. And the way I'm going to do it is, well, okay, Jeremy's new feature doesn't quite work here. If I was going to, we'll use it here. I'm just going to hit the D key. Okay, so it did what I wanted it to do. It inserted a new keyframe. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to erase. And I'm just doing it this way just so that I can have the pleasure of using this particular feature. Which what it does is it creates a new keyframe. Instead of having a whole new drawing, it duplicates the drawing the same way you see in the level strip. it would make more sense doing that if this was all one, if the head was all one drawing, because then I would want to duplicate the head but then only erase the mouth. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Okay, I want to erase areas and lines. Okay, but then here I'm gonna go ahead and just hit the B key and start drawing, because this will operate in the more conventional way, which is to just create a new keyframe, right? Okay. And because the okay, and then let's see, let's go to number 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the W key, and that made it switch it to number 2, and then I'll just go ahead and extend that down. Okay, so the reason I did it this way is I don't want any interpolation or smooth animation on the lip sync. I just want that to be just changing pictures, right? Okay, so now what I was testing to find out is what I was afraid was going to happen is if the head moves from here to here and you draw another mouth shape, is when it animates, is it going to be in the right place? Well, if the mouth layer or level is a child of the head, in other words, as we see in the schematic view, column 6 is parented to column 2. Column 2 is the head. So as long as it was parented to the head before we started adding keyframes, it was fine. If this had not been parented to the head, then as you can see right there, the mouth shapes would all be in the wrong place. Okay, and then by just parenting this back to the head, it puts them back into the right place. Okay, so this is cool. This is cool. So now we can compare this to our little super noob. I swear, I promise, I never ever saw this show or was even aware of it until today. Okay, so we have another problem that I want to show you what the problem is and what the solution is. Okay, the problem is that we've done a bunch of, this is actually a really important problem that you guys want to be aware of. We've done a bunch of animation to the head, and the head is effectively acting as the animation master for this shot. Okay, so all these other pieces of his head are parented. When I say parented, I don't know, maybe some people out there don't know what parented means. In other words, these levels are children of this level. They inherit its animation. So when the head moves, everything that's a child of the head moves as well. Okay, hopefully that's crystal clear. But there's a problem, because the head has all of this animation baked in that involves rotating and scaling. What if we get all this done and then we realize that the overall scale of the head in the shot is too big, which, by the way, it is. What do you do? Well, there's actually, in OpenToonz, there's a bunch of ways to do it, but the way I do it is I want to be able to see, we want to have something else that acts as a controller to scale the whole darn thing. And for me, the best way to do that is to actually use a regular plain old level. And the reason is because then the animation keys are visible in the X sheet. If I was to use like in the schematic view, I can add a peg bar. Okay, so I could go here and add a peg bar. Okay, I add a peg bar, and I parent the head to the peg bar, and now with the peg bar selected, I can scale it. The problem is that if that were to be animated, I can't see it in the X sheet. So it's kind of counterproductive, in my opinion, especially when there's a much more intuitive way to do it, which is to just go hit the insert key and add another level, and then hit the B key and draw a dot. Okay, so effectively I've drawn one raster drawing, and now I can do the same thing I just did. Go into the schematic view, parent that to that, And now this, I'm going to change the name of this to MAS for master. Okay. And now I can hit the A key, scale this guy to about there, and voila, everything translates accordingly. So now we have, you know, without too many levels. Now, if you want to make your life easier, just at this point would probably be a good place to say, look, let's take all these levels, and I'm hitting Control Shift down arrow, which for me is the hotkey, to collapse these into a sub-X sheet. And so now this character is completely all in his own sub-X sheet. And I can hit the Control down arrow anytime I want to go down into that sub-X sheet or pop up back out of it. So now when I hit the L key, we've got this nice animation, pretty consistent with, I'm going to go ahead and make this bigger. You can see this is the real show. Sorry, I just did something kind of stupid. Video capture device, no, window capture, yeah. Okay. So there's that. I want to... Okay, yeah, so that's... Obviously we've got to... You know, we need to add more animation keys for his eyes, eye shapes. Okay. But the bones of it, the mechanics of what we're trying to do are clearly working really, really well. And it looks pretty much consistent with the show that we're trying to emulate. So I'm going to turn the L key on again so I can go in here, and I'm going to do one more thing with the schematic view. Actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to hit Insert, hit the B key, and I'm going to call this BROW capital Z. That's just a cool way to say browse. Okay, and the reason I'm doing that is so that, again, same thing, just to maintain control of my scene. I'm going to take columns 5 and 6 and make them children of browse, and I'm going to make browse the child of the head. Okay. And why do that? Well, really the only reason is to allow me to control. I'm putting the center right here. I just want to have a little more control over his eyebrows. Now I can grab either one of the eyebrows, and let's just see. Let's just go ahead and try a couple things here. We're maintaining mass. I'm going to just actually I'm going to go back here and see what happens if I go like this. Okay, that's okay. So I'm going to go like that, and I'm also going to go like that. Okay, cool. So then what I want to do is I want to grab this keyframe. This is a really important principle here that I think you'll want to know. I'm going to grab this keyframe, and then like 3 frames beforehand, I'm going to go ahead and insert a copy of this key. So go here, hit Control V, and so what that does is it keeps the brows from moving until right there. Okay, and frankly they're in the wrong spot. I really want those. I really want these further downstream. Now, and I'm actually going to offset them so they don't move completely together. Okay, let's just see what that looks like. Okay, not bad. Okay, what about maintaining mass and I'm experimenting here a little bit, frankly. Okay, again, same mistake. You want to keep your mouse away from that center, otherwise things get way out of control. Okay, so now it's interesting because if you hit the control key, you can adjust the horizontal and the vertical scaling separately, but it's a little different depending on if you have maintain mass enabled. So that's something definitely to familiarize oneself with. But that looks pretty cool. Okay. And you say, well, yeah, but once we get down here, we want to go back to our previous positioning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here. I'm going to grab this key, Control C, Control V, grab this key, and I'm going to have, this time I'm going to have them move together. See? Look at that. Easy peasy. Once you get past, it's like what took all the time is fighting OpenToonz on the whole stupid vector layers stuff. Once you get the assets created, it's like, it's pretty lickety split, man, to create something that's fairly cool. Alright, so here's the L key. Okay. So now obviously one might suggest that perhaps having different eye shapes would be kind of useful. So I'm going to say, okay, I guess I will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go B key, but then obviously I don't want that stupid little dot there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the G key and just create a couple circles. Okay, and S key to grab this. Control CV. Okay, that's not actually what I wanted to do, but that's okay. Okay, so now I'm going down. I guess I'll hit the B key just so I don't have the selection tool selected. So Control CV, and I'm going to make this white, and hopefully this will work, and it did. And now I'm going to go back here. I'm going to once again hit the G key. Okay, and I think for these guys we can go ahead and do that number, and so we just put that new drawing in there. And now right here I'm going to go ahead and just hit the Q key to toggle it back to drawing number 1. Now of course I need to stretch this down to here and get rid of those, and wango bango, up and out, puts us back over our background. Let's see what we have. Okay, I think that's probably good for today. That's almost 40 minutes, and it's been a two-parter, and obviously it's going to take a little more work to go ahead and create his body, but I think the lesson is clear that we can create assets and characters and animation that is in keeping with what you're going to find on national broadcast television, and it doesn't have to cost millions of dollars. You just have to kind of know what you're doing, and when you find yourself fighting the tools, you need to know what the solutions are. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and quit. I want to say a shout out one more time to Jeremy Bullock. Dude, I told you that I was going to maybe reinstall what's the platform? The Qt Creator application. I had been using it earlier to do builds of Pencil 2D, but I was really thinking about grokking the OpenToonz code base and try to fix a few things and basically do what Jeremy's been doing. So kudos to Jeremy for doing it. In my opinion, OpenToonz with this current release has reached the point where I can do what I want to do. If I know what I'm after and I decide what it is, I can get it. And that's a cool thing to be able to say, because a year ago that wasn't true. So it's been a good year for OpenToonz. Going into 2019, I think we can finally get really serious about animation workflow, and really feeling confident that we can do what we set out to do successfully. So anyway, again, there's our wonderful animation for today. And you know, if you have any questions, comments, whatever, go ahead and post them, and I'm sure we'll see each other again real soon.